6 p.m., April 20th, 2021. I call this meeting of the Cleveland County Council to order. Public comment session. Let me remind the public that you have 4 minutes to speak. I will hold this 1 minute remaining sign up when you have a minute left, and the red sign when your time's up. Mr. Tony Adams.
I'm Tony Adams. I'm speaking as a concerned private citizen. I want to talk with the council tonight about maintenance and protection of county assets. After all, us taxpayers own these assets. We just elect you guys and hire you guys to take care of them for us. And I believe there's an example in front of us now where this has not been done very well. Specifically, I'm talking about the old Holiness Church building in Westminster. The gaping hole in its roof. This building was bought back in 2019. I believe the public and the council were both told that it could be remodeled and hopefully stay somewhere close to the $500,000 budget. Now, the cause and life of this hole in the roof is somewhat unknown. If you listen to Jerry Edwards' paper, it was discovered early this year sometime. If you listen to the locals, they'll tell you that hole was there when the building was bought. So, who knows? No matter what the history of this hole is, hundreds of gallons of rainwater have leaked through the hole, as well as birds, and no telling what kind of other varmints have got in that building. The hole came up for discussion 3 or 4 meetings ago. Ms. Brock said that it was covered with a tarp, and I have to assume that Ms. Brock was just saying what she had been told as administrator. I'm not here to judge. Next day I rode by and it's wide open. I rode by on the way up here today, still wide open. But I'm going to tell you what, it doesn't need to be covered now. The damage is done. No telling how much mildew, mold is inside that building. At least the sanctuary part. The brick addition may be okay. I don't know. I haven't been in there. Don't want to go in there, really. For whatever reason, the council was not told the truth on this, nor were the public. And from the looks of that hole, it's been there quite a while because it's caved inward. I know a meteorite didn't fall on it, or the whole place would be gone. Westminster would probably be gone. Something caused that hole. Now I want to go back to early 2019. That was a history lesson. To me, misleading, counsel, or possibly even telling untruth. It's serious business. Back in early 2019, I know for a fact that 2 county staff members were giving out will terminations for less than this. I believe one was given an at-will termination for simply answering a question for Mr. Hart there. And the other one, job was sort of mysteriously eliminated the day that auditor report came in exonerating them from any wrongdoing in the salary administration of FASCO. There's been a precedent set for a lot less than this. Like I said, I'm not casting stones. I don't know the circumstances. But I think it behooves the council to at least look into this. Because any way you cut it, it's not right. And if you don't, as far as I'm concerned, you're not living up to your responsibility. Thank you much, Mr. Elliott worked out just right.
Charles O'Shields.
Yes, sir, council. I'm from Timberlake One Circle. I'm Charles Burton Hill. And I brought you a number of signatures that we have several complaints. The one that hurts us most of us, we run into somebody and they'll call Timberlake One Circle known as meth capital for Oconee County. And we find that pretty bad to be talking about our neighborhood that way. I know there's drugs in there and people living in buildings with no water or electricity, junk vehicles that's been there for years, and they just keep adding to them. Household garbage piled in the yards. Some places have as many as 50 bags of household garbage piled in the yard. And before this pandemic come along, Mike Stevens was the county man. And he had started working on it, and he had condemned several of the places. Now, these people have since moved back in those condemned places. And we are asking for some help from the county to get this process back on the road. He was doing a good job, and that's all we ask. We want our place cleaned up. We're not a rich neighborhood, but we would like to be clean. And I hope you understand that type of living. And basically, I came tonight by myself because I told them I didn't need a bunch of people. Now, if we need to more come up here and speak to you, we will be glad to. But I think, but just what I tell you, you know where I understand, and the signatures on all these papers. And so, in saying that, I would appreciate you guys looking into it. And I heard you're hiring another guy for that job, Matt, I think. And I would like to meet him. I think he's supposed to be sworn in May the 4th. And I would like to talk to him because I generally knows what everything in that neighborhood's going on. And there's a lot of people buying some land in there and they're cleaning up, and we just need to get the rest of the neighborhood on the cleanup side. And that would basically take care of the drug heads if you cleaned up their trash piles, basically what they live in, and there'll be 5 or 6 people at a place with no power or water. And with that said, I'm good. As long as you kind of understand us, and could I get any kind of feedback from anybody on what might be done? Do I need to come to the next council meeting, May the 4th?
Mr. O'Shields, if I may, Mr. Chairman, what the public comments generally just the public commenting.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine. Most
Oh, and no
a lot of
comments
folks
back.
So they don't get in an argument.
Oh, I don't
But council
argue.
can address
I
thoughts.
appreciate
They all
it.
have a comment section afterwards.
Oh, okay, I appreciate you. Thanks for explaining that. Well, I'm through then. As long as you know where we stand, and we do desperately need the help. And Sheriff Crenshaw has been, his deputies really helped us over the last 5 or 6 years. I have to brag on him. He's really done us super good. Thank you.
Mr. David McMahon.
Just pass out a little handout. My name's David McMahon, and basically I just wanted to, during the public comment,
I just had a question, and basically it's following along what what was your name again, sir? O'Shields. Good to meet you, Mr. O'Shields. What Mr. O'Shields is talking about litter and the litter ordinance, the code enforcement officer. I noticed when I was reading some of the amendments, there's an amendment in there in the enforcement area where it says that the code enforcement officer, and there was some words stricken out, but it says the code enforcement officer is authorized to cause inspection of public and private property. Now, my question is don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining about anything, because Mr. O'Shields is right, things need to be cleaned up in the county. But I'm hoping that the council and Mr. Root, I'm sure he's probably aware where I'm going with this. Law enforcement, I know, cannot just go on a property without probable cause. And once you have probable cause, you have to go before a judge and have a search warrant issued. And I can tell you, I've wrote many search warrants. And the search warrants have to be articulated, and they have to be very precise on what you're looking for, the reasons why you're doing it before you can search someone's property. So I'm not for sure how you guys have met with Mr. Root and talked the legal parameters of people's Fourth Amendment rights. When I was in law enforcement, there's people who told me to leave their property, and I left because I had to. I'm not sure how y'all gonna work out a code enforcement officer possibly violating the Fourth Amendment issue. I know Mr. Mike, I can't remember his name, it used to be
Stevens.
Mike Stevens. He used to call me all the time when I was in law enforcement. Me and him developed a friendship, and he would tell me, he said, David, there's a place that I want to go visit, but I don't know how these people are going to be receptive to me. And I said, well, follow me. I said, we'll go talk to them. I go knock on the door and develop a conversation with the people and explain to them why he was here. And a lot of times that's how he got into talking to people about things. But I'm not for sure if you have a code enforcement officer that's going to be very zealous, and he's going to go in there and maybe strike the wrong accord with somebody and cause problems. I'm just here to bring these issues up. I'm not here and to question if there's been a Fourth Amendment issue talked about in this situation, because I know law enforcement just can't go on someone's property, especially if there's probably a criminal penalty involved, the reason why they're there. So it's just something I think that y'all should talk about, and you may already have talked about it. I don't know. But I saw it, and I just wanted to address it. Thank you.
We had one written comment that I'll read. This is from Billy Campbell, MD, Westminster, South Carolina. While we look forward to a day when masks are not necessary, and while I believe that day will be soon, I think rescinding the mask ordinance now would be premature. The B.1.1.7 COVID variant made up only 10% of COVID infections at the end of February, but now represents 60% of all new cases in the USA. B.1.1.7 is 60% more contagious and 67% more deadly than the previous variety. This means to achieve herd immunity and to see the disease tamed will take well over 70% and as much as 90% of the population to be vaccinated and or have been infected already. And immunity from being infected is inferior to vaccinated immunity. In Oconee County, the highest risk group, over 65, is 62% immunized, and many of the remaining unimmunized are reluctant to be vaccinated. Only 30% of those over 18 have been immunized, and overall only 24% of the population of Oconee County has been. Keep in mind, our rate of vaccination is actually lower than in Michigan, which is experiencing a devastating outbreak. We're in a much better position than we were in December, but relaxing precautions now could not only make more people sick, it sends a bad message to the public, which could give unvaccinated people a false sense of security. As a person who spends most of his day masked, it is really not that big a deal and a small price to pay to beat COVID. I think if we can hang in there, we should see this awful disease in our rearview mirror in a few months. Council member comments, and I'll start off. So Ms. Brock, I'd like, when the code enforcement officer comes in, to have a conversation with Mr. O'Shields.
Absolutely.
Other comment?
I'd like to echo that, but thank you for bringing those issues up. I mean, number one, that's how they get solved. You know, that's kind of where a lot of the things that we work on and problem areas that we address, or groups address, is that's how we kind of get to them. And I'll be in touch with you and see what we can do. So it's good to have a point of contact, especially in a place that knows people too.
Any other comments? If not, a moment of silence, please. Mr. Root.
Yes, sir. Please pray with me if you'd like to. Father, thank you for this day that you've made, that you've given to us to live and to enjoy your creation, including one another, and our fellowship we can have with one another, and ability to convene together in assemblies like this and do business. And I pray that we would do good business, that we would be appreciative for the opportunities that we have, that we would live day by day and enjoy each moment that you've given to us, being mindful that we are not assured or guaranteed of the next. So help us to use each moment to do good in relation to you and our neighbor, and to consider our neighbor's interest before our own. And I pray that we have that mindset as we conduct business tonight. This will be your meeting. In your name I pray. Amen.
Mr. Hart, can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion to approve the March 16th, 2021 regular minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to approve the March 19th, 2021 special meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Ms. Brock?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council. So nice to see the public back in here. We've missed you. And we do have some special guests this evening. We have several dispatchers from our communication 911 department who are here to receive the proclamation honoring telecommunications week. And I do want to confirm, Mr. O'Shields, that our officer, our code enforcement officer, is slated to be sworn in and certified on May 4th. So you're obviously welcome to come to that meeting, but I'll be in touch with you prior to that, okay? Yes, sir. Short and sweet.
Mr. Root?
I have none.
Okay. Proclamation 2021-03. Proclamation recognizing April is National Donate Life Month. Whereas, one of the most meaningful gifts that a human being can bestow upon another is the gift of life through organ, eye, and tissue donation. And whereas, more than 108,000 children and adults await life-saving transplants, of which more than 1,300 are in South Carolina. And whereas, in 2020, for the first time ever, more than 200 South Carolinians said yes to organ donation, saving the lives of 514 people awaiting their second chance at life. And whereas, we are still losing an average of 20 lives every day to the lack of organs available for transplantation, because every 10 minutes another name is added to the national transplant waiting list. And whereas, according to the national research conducted by Donate Life America, more than 90% of Americans support donation, and more than 54% of South Carolinians have registered at the DMV. And whereas the decision to become an organ donor can save up to 8 lives, and tissue donation can enhance many more, men, women, and children who depend on the generosity and sacrifice of others to receive a second chance at life. And whereas every person should support this life-saving effort by learning more about organ, eye, and tissue donation, making their families aware of their wishes, and registering online at www.donatelifesc.org or when they receive or renew their driver's license. Now, therefore, we, the Oconee County Council, do hereby proclaim April as National Donate Life Month in Oconee County, South Carolina, and urge all citizens to support this life-saving effort. Is there a motion to approve this proclamation?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Will you come down? Come on down, man.
Oh, nice.
It's good standing behind the flag.
You can still see it in your eye.
Wait a minute.
Thank you. Awesome, thank you, Leslie. Yeah, we're good. Okay, thank you.
Proclamation 2021-04, a proclamation recognizing the week of April 11th, 2021 through April 17th, 2021 is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Whereas Patricia Anderson of Contra Costa County Sheriff's Office in California set up National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in 1981 to recognize and celebrate those who are dedicated to serving the public. And whereas this week of recognition is observed across the United States annually, and whereas Oconee County benefits daily from the dedication and service of Oconee County Emergency 911 Center and the dispatchers and staff members working therein, and whereas the Emergency 911 Center answers 6 non-emergency lines and 5 911 lines, and dispatches Walhalla, Westminster, Salem, West Union, the Oconee County Sheriff's Office, 8 rescue squads, and 19 fire departments. And whereas the Oconee County Sheriff's Office has great pride in the Emergency 911 Center, telecommunications staff, and all that do service in the community. Whereas that we're observing a week of recognition, we acknowledge that the 911 dispatch is a year-round job, and dispatchers work around the clock to provide emergency assistance. And whereas Oconee County recognizes and appreciates our dispatchers and telecommunications staff this week and at all times for their contributions to safety and well-being of the community. Now, therefore, we, the County Council, do hereby proclaim April 11th, 2021 through April 17th, 2021 is National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Oconee County, South Carolina, and urge all citizens to recognize and celebrate our Emergency 911 Center dispatchers and staff to reflect on the necessary service they provide. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you very much. Thank y'all very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We'll stand behind y'all.
Bit ahead.
Smiling under their mask.
You can tell. Good job, y'all.
Y'all were smiling, right?
Yes, we were.
There are no public hearings scheduled. There are no third readings scheduled. Second reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2021-08. Ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a special source revenue credit agreement by and between Oconee County, South Carolina, and a company known for the time being as Project Rise, providing for the payment of a special source revenue credit to such company, authorizing the execution and delivery of an agreement for development of a joint county industrial and business park with Pickens County, South Carolina, and providing for other matters related thereto. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? First reading of the following ordinances. Ordinance 2021-09, an ordinance amending certain provisions of the litter control ordinance of Oconee County, South Carolina. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McMahon brought up some good points. I'm going to read to you what I believe he's talking about, the ordinance. It says Oconee County Code enforcement officers are authorized to cause the inspection of any public or private property within the unincorporated limits of the county whenever it shall be necessary to enforce the provisions of this article. And there was a line that was in the original ordinance that stated consistent with the statutory powers granted to. So Mr. McMahon, we all took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and the intent here is not to violate people's Fourth Amendment rights, and I believe it was just left out or an oversight, so I'd like to make a motion to send this ordinance back to the committee for rewording and then bring it back before council.
Second.
Any discussion?
Chairman, this is just a first reading, so there would be 2 additional readings as well as a public hearing.
Would an
Correct.
amendment be more?
Yeah.
I mean,
Would that be correct, right?
Yeah, you'll
So
still
I'm
have
just
2 more
saying, like,
readings.
if you, instead of sending it back, if we're trying to keep a working document moving, to
So
make
you-
the amendment, I'm not trying to tell Mr. Durham what to do, but to amend the current ordinance that's there, for however he chooses to, and then bring that forward, rather than throw it back.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
Yeah, you have that option of, you can make a motion to amend it with language to add or delete or whatever, but if you feel like a, more comprehensive reevaluation of it is necessary, you can refer it to committee, and that's the motion that's on the floor right now. And just for background, there wasn't anything struck in relation to the inspection of public or private property. If you look at attachment B, that's where we chart and note the red line versions. This one, the revisions to this came from the sheriff's office, working with my office to make a few things more clear. And in the enforcement provisions in particular, you'll see on attachment B, the red lines removed or made really clarified that the law enforcement officers, sheriff's deputies, we're not, endued with that power under subsections 1, 2, and 3, that these are code enforcement officer powers. Those stem from the home rule powers in Chapter 4, Section 9-25 and 9-30, and they're corollaries to the International Property Maintenance Code. So it's not a search and seizure of property, it's an inspection without disturbing the public peace, usually looking if there's litter, if there's something on the property. It's all about a matter of enforcement. That's why we want them trained. But maybe that's outside of what you're talking about. So it can be fixed or changed, altered either way.
The way it's worded, it does look like inspection, driving on the highway and seeing it, public view is one thing, but walking onto somebody's property and digging in is another thing. And the way it's read here, you're gonna get a code enforcement officer gonna go on somebody's property, and it's not gonna be pretty, right? Somebody's gonna get killed, So, and the line I was talking about stricken out, that may cover this, is consistent with their respective statutory powers. So that would limit you. I can't just go on somebody's property without a warrant or their permission.
So if you want to reframe the motion to add to enforcement subsection I guess, which is number 1, to enforce the provisions of this article consistent with South Carolina's statutory authority and powers.
I think so.
And I'll bring it back for second reading with that added on.
So
Yeah,
So that'll be a new motion, and we need a second for that. Does that work?
Do we need to, so I make the motion to amend the document, the ordinance, to state consistent with the respective statutory. How'd you word it, Mr. Root?
Consistent with, I think it was just that, consistent with South Carolina's statutory authority.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The original motion he made, do we need to do anything with it?
Now you have to vote on the original motion as amended.
And so, the original motion as amended,
It's on the floor, so you just take a vote on it or discuss it.
Yeah,
second.
It's already on.
it's already there, but either way.
Okay. You just call for a vote at this point as amended.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance 2021-10. An ordinance repealing ordinance 2021-04, which required individuals to wear face coverings in certain facilities owned and operated by Coney County. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second. Discussion. I will start the discussion by saying that this repeal would not be effective tonight. It would be effective after third reading and public hearing, which at the earliest would be May 18th. I also want to thank Prisma Oconee Hospital. I went in both times, 5 minutes, had a shot in my arm, 15-minute wait period to make sure I was all right, and I was out the door. They did a better job in serving chicken at Chick-fil-A, and I want to thank the South Carolina National Guard because they provide the logistics for Oconee County Hospital. So they've done a super job. I want to do a shout out for them. Other discussion.
I'd like to, again, agree with Prisma on the way that their vaccines are in and out a lot quicker than what I have heard. The ability for those that want to get vaccinated have the ability to on the adult side of things as they continue to work toward that. My motion to amend this would put, right now we're at a sunset date of June 30th. Is that correct, Mr. Root?
Yes, sir.
My motion would be to put that, to amend this motion to put May 30th, which would give an additional 30 days for those. We're still going through our second round of shots here at the county. Based on my knowledge of that, we should have the majority of the county through their second dosage by that May 30th timeframe. So that would be a motion to amend that date from June 30th to May 30th.
I'll second that. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, this whole pandemic has been quite an experience for all of us over the past year plus. And I just want to reiterate the fact that I do believe that masks are not the silver bullet, but they're just one of many things that we have at our disposal to, in addition to social distancing and things like that, to try to prevent the spread of COVID. I know that not everybody in this room agrees with me, and not everybody sitting up here agrees with me. But the science, a lot of people don't agree with scientists anymore, so that's a whole nother issue I think we'll deal with in the years to come. But I do think that we need to protect those who have to come to county offices and those that have to be working in county offices. And beyond that, I think the current strains that are I can't think of the word, that are changing. I'm not a scientist, but as these strains mutate, it appears that some of them affect children, much more so than the original coronavirus. And as a father of a 2-year-old, he can't get a vaccine. And I we've been very careful trying to prevent him from getting ill. But I would say, to me, it seems that we're jumping the gun here. COVID is by no means under control in Oconee County. The local population here is, not even 50%, not even close to 50% is actually vaccinated. But I do think we should keep the sunset at June 30th unless and until everybody who can be vaccinated ultimately, which would be those under the age of 16, can actually be vaccinated. I would be in favor of keeping the sunset in place as is and revisit it. And God forbid this thing spike again in Oconee County. It seems to hover around 1.6, 1.7% here locally. But I am not opposed. I'm not in favor of changing this, and I'd rather just allow it to expire as originally was enacted. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to piggyback off of the discussion a minute. So we had the mask ordinance in place. What about the attendance restrictions? When did that come about? That was in place when I took office in January. Was that a council vote decision, or was it from the administrator? And when are we going to open back up the chambers for full attendance? Because the business we do here is important. It's important that people have access to it. I'll have people email me, do you think the chambers will be open or will I be turned away? So that's hesitance and keeps people from coming. So my thing is we need to open up. Everybody else is open for business. We shouldn't be in hiding, and we need to be open and transparent to the public. That's all.
Any discussion on the amendment? Not all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Now we got to vote on the amended motion. All in favor of the amended motion? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Discussion regarding action items. Request council approval to accept the challenges of the affordable and attainable housing in Oconee County document provided by the Planning Commission is public record. 2020 Comprehensive Plan recognizes that there are challenges to affordable and attainable housing in Oconee County. This document gives a brief summary of the research that was gathered. It's staff's recommendation that County Council accept the challenges to affordable and attainable housing in Oconee County's document provided by the Planning Commission is public record. When Mr. Mike Smith, the chairman of the Planning Commission, come forth and just tell us a little bit more about the document and also answer any questions council might have.
Thank you. My name's Mike Smith. I'm on the Planning Commission. I'm not going to go through this document, but there is one item that I think needs to be brought to the forefront. And that is an item called the Area Median Income. The Area Median Income, or AMI, is about $46,000 in this county. Within the state of South Carolina, the AMI is about $56,000. So there's a $10,000 discrepancy. And what we need to do is to work on the goals to raise this AMI to meet or exceed the state's AMI through economic development. That's my only comment that I wanted to make. There's a lot of information in there in that 2.5-page document. Thank you.
Are there any questions, council, to Mr.
Mr. Chairman, this is something that's probably a bigger issue than just Oconee County, but I have, as well as a lot of people, have helped move people into what I would consider substandard housing that has not been cleaned, that has not been vacated with trash from the person that left there. There needs to be some kind of rules in place that allow us, when you start talking about affordable housing, you also talk about the ability of a person to move into a housing that number one is affordable, but is also safe and clean at that time. I have seen late fees at $10 a day after the date to where a person, and I know this is not exactly just in the planning commission, but these are things to sit back and discuss, to where individuals are being charged $300 late fees a month with a rent that is usually $400 to $600 based on what I know. There's a lot of issues that I see that have been addressed in this county on late fees with water rates and utility rates that I feel that are fair now, that have been brought up, but there is nothing to keep, in my opinion, a landlord of charging some of these individuals 50% of their rent for being 10 to 15 days late. And that continues to keep the spiral going. So for what would actually be an affordable housing to an individual that may get some state as well as their job funding is quickly taken away with the amount of late fees that they have. So being a person that has worked with a lot of these individuals, I don't know what we can do as a county, but it needs to be addressed moving forward, because if your rent's $400, or $600, and your late fees are $300, we're pretty excessive. This is something that I'll be taking up through several of the state boards that I'm on as well, to how we can address this. There needs to be something set that's fair for the landlords, but also fair for those that are renting some of this housing.
Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to accept this document?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll say one more thing. So in this document, it's pretty astounding. 8.5% of homeowners in this county and 24% of renters pay over 50% of the household income in rent or mortgage, household expenses. So, one of the biggest challenges to affordable housing is unnecessary fees and regulations. We just defeated one a month ago that would have made another burden, made it more difficult to have affordable housing. So if we really mean what we say about let's keep housing affordable, as we go forward, let's stop just trying to regulate people to death. That's all. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Southern Disaster Recovery Emergency Services, $369,270. Budget's $150,000. County match funds to date. Project cost $92,317.50. Balance $57,682.50. $276,952.50 will be paid by the Emergency Watershed Protection Grant. Staff's recommendation that Council, 1, approve the award to Southern Disaster Recovery, LLC of Greenville, South Carolina, for debris clearing and removal per agreement number 1928, an amendment dated 3/15/2021, approved debris cleaning for the SDR sites 5, 6, 7, and 8, and estimated amount of $369,270. Grant portion, $276,950. County match, $92,317.50. 3, authorize the county administrator to approve any change orders for DSR site numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, as long as the amounts do not exceed the amounts approved in the Emergency Watershed Protection Grant, matching funds, or in-kind match. The final amount will depend on the amount of debris that is removed from each site. And 4, authorize the county administrator to approve debris clearing on sites 9 and 12 as batch funding on in-kind match, or in-kind match becomes available. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Has anybody looked at these sites? Well, I went out there today on my way in, and we could take a farmer with a chainsaw and a Ford tractor and clear those sites that we're paying out of 4 of them at $360,000. That's about $90,000 a site. I'd be glad to do that. I may give up surveying if y'all let me do it, because they had one log jam down there. I went down below the sewer treatment plant. There was 3 trees that were laying across 150 feet down that had just, the roots had given away and they just fell across. And the worst thing was the little bitty branch out at, was that Summer High Street? It was in worse condition than the Conoross Creek. Conoross Creek was flowing like crazy. And if this is government money that's given to us and you just throw it up in the air, I don't think we ought to match any of it. Personally, I won't.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, was this a request for bids issued for this, or?
Because of the timeline for us to get the movement started on this, we did not have an adequate number of days. We got the documents, y'all approved it in December. We got the documents in February, I believe. So we, checked to see with state didn't have anyone on state contract that was available for this service, because plenty of counties got this same federal grant. 2, we piggybacked off of another county who had gone through the bid process and the RFP. Because of the timeline. It's not the amount of money or anything like that. It's simply because of the timeline. We're hoping we can get an extension once we get going on this. It was done properly and in accordance with the law. We wish we had time to do an RFP and RFQ and put it out for locals to bid on, but because of the timeline, our clock is ticking as we speak. And if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd like to address Mr. Hart's comments. Mr. Hart, we don't have anyone on our staff that did the federal evaluation. The federal government did the evaluation on what needed to be cleaned up and required certain management and engineering of such. I personally went and looked at 2 of these and felt the exact same way you did. But I guess they're going to do some water testing downstream to ensure that we haven't disrupted sediment or that we don't cause any further erosion on the stream beds, because the impacts downstream may be worse than realized.
I'd like to invite the public to drive down to the sewer treatment plant, get out and walk on that bridge and look both ways and tell me if they see $90,000 worth of debris in there. Do the same up there on Radisson Road and see if you see it there.
If I'm not mistaken, sir, it's not just not debris within the waterway itself, it's X number of feet outside of the waterway, so that when that debris does make its way to the waterway, that it does not become a future impediment. So it may not be in the stream itself, it may be just uphill from the stream.
Can I say something?
Yes,
Sir,
absolutely, I'm sorry.
and also, remember that the contractor will only get paid, if there's only that much debris, he doesn't make any money. We have a management process that literally confirms that they pull out per cubic yard. So he's only paid for what he actually removes of that area. It is 1,300 feet of that area. It's not just what's in visible sight. Every site was a little different as they were identified by the federal evaluation for that. So again, it's only, if they don't pull the debris, they don't get paid. And then we have a monitoring process to make sure they're not taking a dump truck from somewhere else and getting paid for that. And that is also paid 100% of our costs to do that by the grant, to make sure that the contractor isn't trying to pull the wool over our eyes and pull debris from other places. So again, there's an estimate, and again, that's an estimate of what is laying on the ground within 40 to 50 feet of the bank on each side, plus what's in the water.
How many cubic yards does this cover?
The first four
11,000.
is 11,000 cubic yards, and that is cradle to grave. So that is actually picking it up, removing it to a site, chipping it, and then disposing of it properly from that site.
And I know y'all presented this, or you presented this in the meeting that was immediately prior to this earlier today, and I just couldn't see on YouTube what the numbers were and stuff, but
There you go.
I mean, that sounds a lot better than what Mr. Hart's saying, but I have the same concerns that, there's potential for abuse by the contractor. Not that I think they would, but there's potential for it if it wasn't bid on. And so I'm glad to hear there's a accountability measure in place to make sure that they're not just moving 3 logs and getting paid $90,000. But I'm familiar with those areas very much so, and there's a lot of especially Ploma, I drive through there all the time. It's just, tornado went through there.
So one other thing, and you look at priority, we were trying to get some of the ones done so we can get an extension to actually do some of the bigger ones. We can't do a project halfway and get paid, so we want to make sure that the matching funds do complete something, and we can actually move forward with the matching funds with Horseshoe Bridge and the bank stabilization, so that road doesn't wash out like Cobb Bridge, and those things that we're trying to get done also that are going to be covered before we actually have infrastructure damage that costs us more problems in the future.
I think that's one of the concerns based on areas that flood more frequently than what we do. In Tennessee, if you look at the amount of debris that gets washed downhill, they have a lot of these things that have to come in there to clear those out. And when they don't, they lose a bridge. Once the debris clogs up underneath and it starts flowing on top of it. So while I understand those, I have looked at 3 of these sites. 6, 7, and 8 are the ones that I had seen, based on the information that I had in front of me the other day on backup materials posted. So I am familiar with all those other ones. The concern that I have is the long term as those things. I know what we have cleared in the creeks that are around my property from what that tornado blew through, the amount of trees that we have had down in there. And again, it's just a creek. It's not, so as it continues to die, I think you're going to see a whole lot more issues. And as we get into a rainy season next year, that's my concern. That do I feel like it's needed? Am I the expert on that? No, I'm not. But I trust in those that have looked at this, and I do trust in those. Y'all are the experts that look at this stuff and say it needs to be done, as well as those experts that you rely on as well. So, that's why I see if it's not done, there could be some fatal issues long-term down the road. So, unfortunately, I think there's a whole lot more down in those areas that will continue to get in those waterways, and will start eroding the banks because they're going to go around the trees. And that's what I have experienced on my small creeks.
And I apologize, I do see here this chart in the backup material. I guess I just skipped over it. I didn't pay attention to that, but yeah, that's the total estimate for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 12 is like, what, 60 to 70,000 cubic yards, which is, that's what I was thinking. Ploma is,
Yes, sir.
it's a disaster.
So Ploma is
Legitimately.
26,500 cubic yards alone.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Again, an estimate, sir.
The presentation we had at the previous committee meeting was outstanding. It brought a lot of clarity to me. It probably would have been better to have it for the full council as well, so everybody can understand the full scope of what we're trying to do here.
Mr. Chair, I've got a creek on the back of my property. There's more trees in it than there are the ones that I went and seen. So I'd hate like the devil to have to pay to get it cleaned up, 360-something thousand. I'd be one of the homeless looking for the lower-end places too.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Officer Body Armor, Sheriff's Office, $66,684.60. Budget $66,684.60. The project cost is the same. It's staff's recommendation that council approve the purchase of officers' vests to Lawman's Supply of Raleigh, North Carolina, in the amount of $66,684.60 per state contract number 4400018551. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Will the old vests be used in training and stuff like that?
Yes, sir.
I mean, obviously, they won't be sold to the public. But they can be used in training. So we'll still get use out of them, just not as a SWAT specified.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Officer uniform, animal control, detention center, sheriff, $184,033.68. The budget's $201,700. Project cost $184,033.68. Balance $17,666.32. It's staff's recommendation that council, one, approve the award of ITB 20-04 officer uniforms for animal control, detention center, and sheriff to Design Lab, Inc. of Greenville, South Carolina, an estimated amount of $184,033.68, and authorize the county administrator to renew the bid for up to 4 one-year periods, provided the work is satisfactory and the amounts do not exceed the amounts budgeted for officer uniforms. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Ms. Brock, the animal control and detention center sheriff, they've all signed off on these uniforms and everything like that? Sheriff? We'll make sure.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Tires for heavy equipment, rock quarry, and vehicle maintenance, $180,617.64. The budget's the same, the project cost is the same. It is staff's recommendation that council, one, approve the award of bid 20-05 to Interstate Tire Service LLC of Pelzer, South Carolina, for the estimated amount of $180,617.64. Two, authorize the county administrator to renew the bid for up to 4 one-year periods, provided their work is satisfactory and the amounts do not exceed amounts budgeted for heavy equipment tires. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
If I may please, just for the record, Mr. Chairman, this is pending on the 2021-22 budget approval. Should that amount change in the budget document, we'll bring this back to council for reconsideration. This contract begins on July 1st. It's just a contract renewal period that we're in right now.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Payroll and human capital management software, finance, human resources, $126,970.75. The budget's $150,000. The project cost is $126,970.75, which leaves a balance of $22,029.25. Procurement pending approval of the fiscal year 21-22 budget. It is staff's recommendation that council approve the sole source purchase of payroll and human capital management software to Paylocity of Schaumburg, maybe Illinois, in the amount of $126,970.75. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
If I may please, sir, just one more clarification for the record. This again is a 2021-2022 budget amount. Should the budget document change in any of the readings, this item will be brought back to council for reconsideration.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
What payroll management software do we currently use? And how much what is the cost to that?
Currently, we're using a company called Paycor. The cost is very similar. The deliverables have become a little bit difficult. I'm not trying to bash the company in any way. We've just had some issues as our organization has grown and changed, specific to certain departments that work outside of normal, that we are manually doing things which has caused errors. I believe a couple of you have been victim of those errors in the last couple of months, and the translation in our benefits and our current software just is not there, and it's not to par.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board and commission appointments. Building Codes Appeals Board, we have one at-large seat, no questionnaires on file. Council will go into executive session for the following purposes: discussion regarding economic development matter, Project Drift. Second, receive legal advice and discuss a contract on related potential contract on matter with respect to the disposition of certain county-owned property. 3, discussion regarding potential acquisition and transfer of real property to emergency services. Is there a motion to go in executive session?
Make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to go out of executive session?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No action was taken in executive session. Mr. Root?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just need one motion. It's a motion to approve the confidentiality agreement in relation to Project Drift and authorize the county administrator to execute the document on behalf of the county.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion to adjourn?